Part 106. Being a Bug in a Survival Game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 1059. The third phase of the open beta has entered the countdown. Regardless of whether the players who are about to participate in the third phase of the open beta are willing to do so, at this point, they can only be forced to accept it. For a time, the Black Towers in the real world were crowded with people at all times, and they were all overflowing. People who react slowly are still complaining that the third phase of the open beta will really kill people. But those who react quickly have already begun to desperately improve their strength in the Black Tower. Or you can scan the goods in the system mall to find game props that suit you, so as to increase your survival guarantee in subsequent copies. In response to the situation of the third phase of public testing, officials have also begun to issue response policies one by one. First, take the base as a unit to compile a list of all players in the base who participated in the third phase of the public beta. Second, the official game currency will be provided to help every player who participates in the third phase of public testing to be equipped with a contact machine to facilitate gathering in the copy as soon as possible. Third, a special force to maintain order in the dungeon has been formally established, codenamed Hope and Password 2022. Every Blue Star citizen in the dungeon is not allowed to kill his compatriots. If found, all will be punished. The new law's harsh penalties are enforced by members of special forces. Fourth, there are more than 20 policies listed, and each policy summarizes the handling of existing problems as much as possible. The third one was specifically mentioned 3 times. No matter when, no matter what kind of disaster occurs, when order and law collapse, it is the moment when the world truly faces a devastating blow. Therefore, the official emphasized this point. Of course, special times require special treatment. If push comes to shove and other players want to harm themselves, the government also allows self-defense and counterattack. But there is a condition that needs to be added, which is to open the image stone and leave evidence to prove one's innocence. And this photo stone is actually the function of taking pictures. If you put it in the inventory, it will take effect immediately with just one thought. The official also specially presented 2 photo stones to each person. Sutingyu also received 2 pieces and tried them twice. It was similar to a video camera, but more convenient than a video camera. As long as a photographic stone is not damaged, it can be recycled. After several days, Sutingyu, who was staying in the room refining magic potion, was called over by Siepwu. As soon as Sutingyu came over, he asked curiously, "Has the alliance been discussed?" Siepwu nodded, "Yes, we have already negotiated." Although the process was somewhat bumpy, preliminary alliance matters were still established. Even if you may never encounter them in the dungeon, you can be prepared and save one enemy. That's right, Sutingyu tilted her head. Then if we really meet him in the dungeon, how do we confirm his identity? After all, in so many worlds, human players make up the majority, and there are also all kinds of weird players. The Dragon Clan may not be exclusive to the Crybaby Dragon Clan. So, the higher UPS are planning to announce this matter, Siepwu replied. In addition, both sides are now discussing with each other to determine a password or to come up with something more iconic so that it can be easily identified. Sutingyu, yes, I really want this. Siepwu, in addition, even if it is not the Dragon Clan, we have also formed an alliance with Davari and Taibo from the brother country. Similarly, we have to come up with something that can confirm the identity. Sutingyu nodded, yeah, that's right. In the past few decades, these 2 countries have also had a relatively strong relationship with China. Now that a big crisis is coming, alliances are indispensable. After talking about the alliance, Siepwu turned to Sutingyu, "That's about it. Are you ready to enter the third phase of public beta?" "Yes, Xiaowu, you. By the way, I forgot to tell you. I confess that I did not sign up for the third phase of the public beta. Siepweo suddenly remembered something and touched her nose as if she was embarrassed. Sutingyu looked confused. Ah, Xiaoyu didn't participate? Didn't he say he would participate before? Wait, did he say that? It seems, you said it. Didn't you say? Why? Siepweo pointed to her brain, because, I deduced some things, but I was not sure at that time, so I just reported them to the superiors secretly. I didn't even have time to tell you, and then you just signed up on your own. It's none of my business. Gan. Sutingyu had forgotten that there was a luck dice beside him. Siepweo looked at Sutingyu's resentful look and smiled unkindly. Don't be like this. Anyway, I believe in your strength. Humph carrot. No more love. He didn't even tell her. The little fairy expressed her anger. The kind that requires 3 minutes of coaxing. Siepweo defended, even if I told you at the time, with your little temper, do you think you wouldn't participate? Siepweo knew that Sutingyu was simply overly curious and liked exciting things. Ah, this, seems to be what you said? Sutingyu couldn't refute. No, even if I still have to participate in the end, that's not the reason why you didn't tell me. It's all about your attitude. Sutingyu's eyes widened, and she was almost fooled. Okay, it's my fault. Seeing that the issue of attitude had already been brought up, Siepweo was too lazy to continue talking to Sutingyu. If you continue to pull this off, it's all his fault no matter what. 3 minutes later. Sutingyu, who lost his temper, opened his mouth and said, I'm curious, if those players who participated in the third phase of the open beta will really die in the later games, and what about those players who did not sign up? Don't they need to participate in the dungeon? Siepweo shook her head. No, you have to enter the dungeon normally. The rules are the same as before. If you are eliminated in the dungeon, just pay the game currency. Oh, that's it? After Sutingyu got the information he needed, he just hummed and left. Siepweo helplessly watched Sutingyu leave, shrugged, and then went about her own business. Time passed bit by bit. The secret code for the alliance was also officially confirmed. Subsequently, the official announced this news to all citizens of China. As for forming an alliance with humans in this world, it's not surprising, but being able to form an alliance with players from another world, who are still dragons, made everyone curious for a while. There are still a few copies left, and it's almost over. I've already figured out how the finale will be from the beginning, but the remaining journey is a bit stuck. I'll try to finish writing the main text in July. Just Zhangzi. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuan-Ke. Chapter 1060. As soon as Sutingyu opened her eyes, a rusty sharp knife was about to thrust straight into her face. Sutingyu was shocked. In an instant, the defensive item guard placed in the accessories column, which was almost turning to dust, emitted a burst of light. Ding! The sharp knife broke into 2 pieces. But Sutingyu was intact. The man who was originally just here to retaliate, thinking that Sutingyu would definitely die, looked shocked. In the blink of an eye, a ruthless look flashed in the man's eyes, and he stabbed Sutingyu with another sharp knife. But Sutingyu had adapted now and reached out to grab the man's wrist. The thin little hand seemed to have the strength of 10,000 kilograms. Click. The bones in the man's wrist were shattered. Ah! A short sound of pain came out of the man's mouth, but he quickly endured it. Seeing that he was injured, the man immediately ran away without caring about anything. In a few breaths, the man's figure disappeared into the ruins. Sutingyu did not chase him, but quickly stood up and checked his physical condition. Fine. There was just some mud on his clothes, but no injuries. Sutingyu glanced at the accessories column. Props, breast guard. Grade, rare. Function, able to passively resist an attack from the front, cooling time, 24 hours, cooling down. Durability, 80%. Remarks, remember, it's from the front, but you can't resist backstabs, so don't rely on others. This game prop was redeemed before the public beta. At that time, it was just in case, and after so many rounds of dungeons in the public beta, this game prop was never used. As a result, the current third stage dungeon was forced to use this game prop just after entering the dungeon. After receiving his thoughts, Sutinyu took stock of the nearby situation. World background: this is an abandoned world that has gone through the darkest moments. The fire of civilization has been almost cut off on the wasteland. It is desolate and numb. The few remaining gathering places of wilderness people are facing the invasion of monsters all the time. The hope of civilization, and where is it? Number of players. Big competition rules: the first 12 parallel world players to find the trace of life. All players in the parallel world will advance to the next round. Main line of the big competition: looking for traces of life and surviving until the end of the instance. Difficulty: 10.5 stars. Duration: unlimited. Pass-through reward: after passing the level, advance to the next round of dungeons and settle the game currency, with the probability of obtaining blue mysterious grade game props, attribute points, and lottery opportunities. Wasteland. Abandoned world. Sutinyu looked at the introduction at the beginning of this round of dungeon. This was different from the past. Is there any difference between the dungeons in the third stage of the public beta? Woo. While Sutinyu was thinking, a sound like a wolf howling came from the distance. Sutinyu instantly became alert. Now, Sutinyu was in a ruined building, surrounded by desolate surroundings, as if there was nowhere to hide and no way to go. Sutinyu took out the meteor stick, enlarged it to the length of a normal baseball bat, held it in his hand, and rushed in the direction of Howling Wolf. When Sutinyu walked up to a high ground and crouched down to look down, he saw several black wolf-shaped monsters chasing a blue leather truck in front of him. The wolf-shaped monster's eyes were glowing red, its limbs were running extremely fast, and it was following the truck closely. Sutinyu calculated and found that there were 6 monsters. These monsters seemed to be very intelligent. 2 of them were chasing behind them, and the other 4 were outflanking them, forcing the truck to move forward in a straight line. But now, in front of the truck is a garbage dump, and behind the garbage dump is a cliff formed by garbage, with a height of at least 20 meters. If the truck does not brake and rushes over directly, it may cause a crash and death. The people in the car also knew this and always wanted to stay away from the garbage dump. However, those monsters forced the truck to drive in the direction of the garbage dump. Damn! Fight with the monster. You can't go past. The garbage building is ahead. The people in the car were swearing. The truck's speed inevitably slows down as it gets closer to the dump. At this time, the demon who had been waiting for the opportunity also speeded up and caught up in an instant. The 2 demons, one on the left and one on the right, kicked their legs and jumped directly onto the roof of the truck. Under the dual influence of the sudden weight increase and the impact force, the truck's tires began to slip and deviated from its original forward path. Depend on. A child's frightened voice came from inside the truck. Get rid of the monster. Quick. Sutinyu watched the truck twist and turn in circles. When he finally got rid of the demon, one side of the truck hit the garbage mountain and was forced to stop. 1, 2, 3, 6 demons surrounded the truck, approaching tentatively. Whoa, I want to go home. Mommy, mommy. The children in the carriage couldn't help crying, and the 2 women who stayed in the carriage hurriedly comforted the children, but with little effect. The engine is off. Get the guy down. There were 3 men in front of the car, one holding a gun-like weapon, one wearing an exoskeleton armor, and the last one holding a pair of swords. If 3 people could fight against 6 monsters in normal condition at the beginning, they wouldn't have to run away for so long. Now we are forced to have no choice but to fight. The two women in the car also quickly got out. They had bow weapons and two short knives in their hands. It's just that this kind of equipment is not very advanced in the wasteland. The man driving the car shouted to the two women, "Look after the children." Good. One of the women touched the ground with her toes and easily jumped to the roof of the car. There were marks on the roof that had been scratched by a demon. Fortunately, the truck had been modified and had not been scratched. The woman raised her crossbow and squatted down, aiming at one of the demons. Another woman stood guard at the carriage door. It seemed that the demons couldn't wait any longer, and they roared and rushed over. Three men rushed forward. The man in the armor clicked on the data table on his left wrist a few times. Then, a blue light flashed on the surface of the armor. He roared and stopped the two demons at the front. There was a demon leaping away from the man's head. The man's eyes were fierce, and with the same leap, he stretched out his hand to grab the demon's tail and pulled the demon down. "Your grandpa is here. Why are you running?" Of the remaining three monsters, the man with the double sword was holding two of them down, while the man with the gun faced off against the last, smaller one. The plan of several people is to have the man with the most destructive gun and be the first to kill a demon to relieve the pressure. The monsters in the wasteland are all intelligent. They move in groups and hunt in a planned manner. If a member dies or senses the danger of death, they will leave cautiously even if they still have the strength to fight. A few people just bet on the devil's caution. And this premise, must use thunder to kill a demon. The most powerful weapon in the hands of these people was the gun, with only 2 rounds of ammunition left in it. The man holding the gun felt extremely stressed at this time. Everyone's hope was placed in his own hands. The man forced himself to calm down, and then concentrated on aiming at the demon he wanted to deal with. The woman on the roof of the car fired crossbow arrows to block the demon's approach and cover the man's aim. The system is locking. Please confirm the target. The man set his target on the demon. The gun automatically begins to lock. 1 second, 2 seconds. In just 10 seconds, the man in the armor who was still domineeringly pulling the demon's tail began to restrain himself because the energy time of the armor was about to end. Without paying attention, a demon rushed over and pounced on the truck. In the truck, the delicious smell of children aroused the demon's nerves all the time. Seeing the demon coming, the woman standing guard in front of the carriage stood up in front of the demon and fired a volley of crossbow arrows, but the demon nimbly dodged them. On the other side, there was a man holding a pair of knives. Blood flowed from the claws of his hands, and a new mark scratched by sharp claws appeared on his chest. If it weren't for the specially made clothes on his body that resisted most of the attacks, this claw would have been enough to disembowel him and make him drink with hatred on the spot. The target is locked, requesting shooting. 10 seconds passed, and the man couldn't wait to pull the trigger. Boom! Bullets shot out of the gun. Sensing the danger, the demon subconsciously wanted to escape, but the speed of the bullet was faster, and it penetrated the demon's head in just the blink of an eye, splashing out a lot of brains and blood. Woo! The demon groaned and then fell to the ground. Seeing this scene, several people breathed a sigh of relief. The demon, which was still aggressive at first, seemed to have suddenly pressed the pause button and stopped attacking. Several people were still vigilant, but in their hearts they were hoping that these monsters would leave. The stalemate lasted for about a few minutes. Suddenly, one of the demons roared into the sky. Soon, there was a second and third head. The 5 demons roared in unison. In the distant wilderness, there seemed to be an intermittent echo. The expressions of several people changed. No. They don't want to leave. It's not that they don't want to leave, it's that their companions are here. Before he finished speaking, a new monster appeared in the garbage dump. 1, 2, 3, a total of 20 demons. For a moment, Several people's faces turned pale and fell into despair. It's over. There are 25 demons in total. Even if they each have a gun now, they have no chance of winning. Before taking aim, the extremely fast-moving demon can scratch their chests in an instant. Sutingyu, who was watching the battle, saw that several people seemed to be at their wits' end, and wondered whether he should go over and help. She had just arrived, and the dungeon time was unlimited, so it was difficult to find a trace of life designation. Sutingyu was mentally prepared to live in this copy world for a long time. As for this wasteland dungeon, it looks like the situation is not peaceful. If you can have a guide, you can quickly understand the basic situation of the wasteland world. Even if this group of people encountered a strong enemy and ran away without leaving the child in the car, they should still have some character. After observation, although the weapons of this group of people were a bit strange, they did not pose a great threat to Sutingyu. Even if this group of people turned against each other, Sutingyu was sure to beat them to tears, and then get information about the wasteland world from their mouths. After thinking about this, Sutingyu stood up and dug out a skateboard from the storage ring. Wings are unusable. Otherwise, if he fails to save people, he might be regarded as a monster. This world, apart from abnormal species like monsters, is still a technological world. Sutingyu held the meteor stick tightly in her hand, stepped on the skateboard on her feet, and then slid down the slope. At this time, in the alternate space high above the sky, 12 administrators gathered around the round table. Among them, a young man with cool purple hair looked at the wasteland environment displayed on the panel and shook his head. This is a world that has been abandoned for thousands of years. It's so miserable. Next to him sat a cold, muscular man with his arms folded, and said with no expression on his face, "The inheritance of civilization is almost cut off, and they are forced to enter the wasteland civilization in the darkest hour to survive. This is the fate of the eliminated. How about we guess which 12 parallel worlds will successfully break through this time?" Opposite the purple-haired young man, a Lolita sounded, but when he looked over, he could only see half of his head. The little Lolita wearing a pink Lolita princess dress struggled to climb onto the round table and angrily stood on it and complained. "I've told you so many times. Change the table and chairs to smaller sizes. This princess almost can't get up." Her charming tone, coupled with her uniquely adorable face, makes her look incomparably cute, but without the slightest hint of disgust. However, everyone else present knew the true nature of the little Lolita, and no one was deceived. Someone next to me said, "You're the shortest, so we can't all just accommodate you, right?" Humph! The little Loli put her hands on her hips angrily, but couldn't refute. Boring! Someone snorted coldly, disdainful of the little Lolita's willfulness just now. "This is a big competition, not just playing house." The little Loli was very unconvinced. "How boring is this? You keep staring at the dungeon data to get bored." "Let me guess with you," the purple-haired young man, who was also playful, waved to the little Lolita. "You're still interesting." Little Loli felt relieved. "Stop it." Sitting in seat 1, a man in an ordinary white coat spoke up to stop the two of them from messing around. "The collapse rate of the parallel paradise copy this time is several times higher than in the past. Please be alert and watch carefully." The purple-haired young man rolled his eyes. I know. But, this is also strange. The Honkai dungeon either collapsed inexplicably and no reason could be found, or the Honkai dungeon automatically reorganized without the intervention of the administrator. The little Loli's eyes were bright, as if she was planning some bad idea. "One is to destroy, the other is to repair. He, it's fun." The man in the white coat said, "The players have all entered the dungeon, let's get started." "Good. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 1061. Sutingyu, who rushed down, whether on the demon or human side, was caught off guard. Wu. Among the monsters, there were 3 or 4 famous monsters who took the initiative to intercept Sutingyu. Sutingyu controlled the sliding of the skateboard while holding tightly the Liu bat that was now a baseball bat. When several monsters rushed towards him, Sutingyu took advantage of the slope in front of him and kicked off the skateboard with his legs, flying into the air. Bang bang bang. Sutingyu hit the demon on the head with the meteor stick with quick hands and eyes. With a twist of his wrist, the demon, which was several times larger than Sutingyu, was knocked out with terrifying force. Sutingyu's body fell down, just stepped on the sliding skateboard, and then moved down quickly. Who is she? Whoever she is. We are saved. Although they didn't know the purpose of Sutingyu's visit, they could see that she took the initiative to fight the monsters and drove away several monsters at once, which ignited hope in the hearts of several people. Woo-oh! The remaining demons looked up to the sky and roared. Just when Sutingyu thought that these monsters were going to be beaten by her, after the group of monsters roared, they turned around and ran away. Sutingyu blinked his big eyes, feeling a little at a loss for a moment. Called twice before leaving? Vigorous. The other people breathed a sigh of relief when they saw that the demon was really gone this time. The man in armor seemed to be their boss. He took 2 steps forward, but still kept his distance from Sutingyu. He asked Sutingyu, "Who are you?" Sutingyu waved her little paws with a harmless look on her face. "Hello, my name is Chinyu." But the few people who had just seen Sutingyu defeat several monsters neatly did not let down their guard because of this. "You have good skills. This stick, could it be a silver weapon?" the man with the double sword just said in surprise when the short-haired woman next to him poked the former with her elbow. Ahem. Only then did the man with the double sword realize that his reaction was too enthusiastic. It is very likely that Sutingyu will suspect that he covets her weapons. "Sorry, I lost my composure at the moment." Sutingyu still needed these guides, so naturally he didn't mind. He waved his hand and said, "It's okay, it's okay." The armored man said, "Thank you very much for your help. We are members of the United Society. My name is Li Wenyu. They are all my friends." After introducing himself, Li Wenyu asked, "Where are you from? Are you from a wandering tribe in the wilderness? Or are you from a biotechnology company? You can't be a member of the church, right?" Sutingyu, What are they talking about? Why can't the little fairy understand any of them? These names sound like the names of some major forces in this world. None of this is what you are talking about. I live with a few family and friends in the wilderness. However, we got separated not long ago, Sutingyu explained. The situation was still unclear, so Sutingyu could only speak vaguely. Pretending to be a member of one of these forces can easily reveal one's flaws. Li Wenyu was a little surprised, living in the wilderness. Always. Sutingyu dance skills and stick didn't look like the shabby and poor wanderer in the wilderness in the past. The Wilderness Wanderers and Wilderness Wanderers sections have similar names. However, the biggest difference is that in terms of number and scale, the former prefers family units, while the latter prefers joint confrontation in towns and cities. Sutingyu nodded, "Yes. No matter if he is." Anyway, these people were so kind and had arranged an identity for her, so Sutingyu naturally accepted them. "I don't go out very often. I don't know much about the road now. Can you give me a ride so that I can find my friend as soon as possible?" Sutingyu asked. "That's no problem. We are going back to the Federation now. If you don't mind, we can give you a ride." This request made by Sutingyu was exactly what Li Wenyu and the others wanted. Because the garbage dump is still a long way from the Union. During this journey, if you encounter demons again, you can easily deal with them, either at one end or at the other end. If it were like this time, if dozens of them came at once, then they would have no choice but to wait for death. This time, I was lucky and met Sutingyu. But next time, it may not be the case. Therefore, what Li Wenyu thought was that if Sutingyu could follow him, it would be good to act as a bodyguard along the way. For a time, although the two parties had their own thoughts, they both reached an agreement in a tacit understanding. Ah, by the way, is your car still usable? Sutingyu pointed at the truck. Li Wenyu is not worried. Don't worry, the problem is not big, and this is a garbage dump. If you are missing any parts, you can find them here. Ah, can this still be like this? Sutingyu was a little surprised. Seeing that Sutingyu had an innocent look on her face, as if she didn't even know much about common sense in places like trash cans, a few people temporarily believed that she had really been living with her family and friends and had not had much contact with the outside world. And what Sutingyu thought was not bad. If there is really a ride to take, there is no need to walk on two legs. So Suting watched them with fishy eyes as they picked up the rags and repaired the car. During this period, Sutingyu also learned the identities and names of several people. They are a 5-man team of the United Society, and their daily mission is to patrol specific areas. Captain, Li Wenyu. Team members, Xiong Han, man with double swords, Zhu Neng, man with guns, Linji, Lu Shengsheng. This time, they passed by a wandering tribe in the wilderness that was destroyed by demons. After searching inside the tribe, they found these surviving children in a secret tunnel. So, the 5 people planned to take these children back to the United Society. What happened next was that he met the 6 demons and was chased to the garbage dump. Thousands of years ago, the old human world with highly advanced technology disintegrated and collapsed. Humanity's darkest moment arrived. Civilization regressed and almost returned to the Stone Age where it was originally eliminated. In the dark night, ferocious demons are born. They are organized and strategic, and like to eat human flesh. The tenderer the human flesh, the more they like it. At this point, the wasteland era has arrived, and humanity is barely surviving. In the wasteland, the remaining humans began to join forces with each other for warmth, and formed some forces and organizations. Among them, the most famous ones are the United Society, biotechnology companies, and churches. In addition, the largest number of people are wandering tribes in the wilderness. The first 3 possess the top technological power and armed forces in the wasteland. However, there are differences. The United Society implements militarized control and attaches great importance to internal hierarchy, that is, the relationship between superiors and subordinates. If you want to join, you need to be recommended by internal personnel and then approved by relevant personnel. The procedures are very complicated. Biotechnology companies are extremely outstanding in the field of biotechnology. Their philosophy is to abandon the cumbersome human body and welcome the arrival of the god of machinery. To put it bluntly, it means modifying the human body and turning it into a mechanical weapon. In the last church, all members believe in the new god and believe that only the new god can lead mankind to end the wasteland era. To outsiders, it looks like a group of mentally mutated lunatics gathered together, like a powerful time bomb that will explode at some point. The last wandering tribe in the wilderness generally refers to all the clan-like forces in the wilderness that have backward armed forces and simple living conditions and are organized based on surnames and bloodlines. Li Wenyu and the other 5 were old members of the United Society, but they had never met Sutingyu, so they first guessed whether the latter was a member of a biotechnology company or a church. However, the members of the latter 2 are pretty easy to identify on the surface. One is almost completely transformed into a machine, and the other is neurotic. However, looking at Sutingyu's skills and equipment, he didn't look like a poor wilderness tribesman. The above is the basic information about this world that Sotingyu learned from Li Wenyu and others using the excuse that he had just come out. And when Sotingyu asked about the trace of life, Li Wenyu and others looked puzzled and confused. Apparently, none of them knew about the sign of life. It stands to reason that the dungeon information given by the panel will exist in the dungeon world. But Li Wenyu and others didn't know. First, maybe they were pretending and didn't want Sotingyu to know. But Sotingyu asked suddenly, without any warning. The emotions shown by several people were very real, and there was no trace of disguise. Second, perhaps the social status of Li Wenyu and others is not enough to understand what traces of life are. The panel only gave one keyword. If Sotingyu wanted to get more information, he had to get it from a big force like the United Society in order to get the information as quickly as possible. After the truck was repaired, the group started on the road. Sotingyu and two women crowded in the back of the carriage. As soon as Sotingyu entered, he saw a dozen children in the carriage. Those children were dirty, and the clothes they wore were of a very old style. Most of them were adults' clothes and they were a bit ill-fitting. When these children saw Sotingyu, their eyes were alert and cold, without any innocence that belonged to normal children. This is the child in the wasteland. The innocence has been lost long ago. Linji and Lu Shengsheng calmed the children's emotions, and then said to Sotingyu, "Please forgive me a little, after all, they just lost their loved ones." The two of them didn't say anything else. Sotingyu didn't ask either. "I understand. By the way, what's going on with your friend? The United Society often sends small teams to patrol outside. If you're lucky, you might be able to meet your friend," Yeji said. "Yes," Sotingyu nodded. "Can the United Society help me find my friend? What are the conditions?" "We need some IT coins, which are the currency in circulation within the United Society," Lu Shengsheng on the side said. "You saved us this time, we can help you with this money." Sotingyu's eyes lit up, "Then thank you, two beautiful sisters." Hearing this, the two of them pursed their lips and smiled. No matter what else. As a woman, she likes to hear others praise her for her beauty. Sotingyu took advantage of the situation and continued to inquire about the internal situation of the United Society. "Two beautiful sisters, what is the situation inside the United Society?" Yeji asked back, "What? Do you want to join the United Society?" Sotingyu blinked, "Didn't I get lost with my friend? The place where we originally lived was occupied by another group of people. They were very strong and we couldn't defeat them, so we were forced to wander." "A group of people?" Yeji and Lu Shengsheng looked at each other. "Could it be a predator?" Sotingyu tilted her head, "Pretty sister, what is a predator?" Yeji took the lead in explaining. "In the wasteland, the legal system has collapsed, and robberies, assassinations, riots, etc. often occur. Among them, there are some people who are naturally fond of chaos and enjoy killing others. They have even established organizations to fight in the wasteland. Notorious, known as predators." "Oh." Sotingyu recalled how she almost felt cold when she first entered the dungeon. The man probably saw her lying on the ground and wanted to pick something up, right? "You also have to be careful not to expose your wealth, especially weapons and food. In the wasteland, these two are the most important. If it is one force, there will be issues of competition for territory and resources. For ordinary people like us who are backed by big forces, the biggest benefit is to have a stable place to live, but we also have to shoulder corresponding responsibilities, such as daily patrol work, which is the most basic." Along the way, Sotingyu listened to the two people's stories, and gradually gained a general understanding of this wasteland in his mind. However, Sotingyu learned from the two people that the wasteland had very strict control over information and technology. Sotingyu's attempt to find the trace of life might be more troublesome than he imagined. Unless Sotingyu becomes a senior member of the organization in a short period of time and has higher authority to conduct inquiries. After a few hours, the speed of the truck gradually slowed down and finally stopped. Yeji said, "We're here." Sotingyu was shocked when he heard this. Soon, Sotingyu felt like something was scanning her body. Lu Shengshen noticed the change in Sotingyu's expression and explained, "This is the scanner at the entrance of the United Society. It is used to detect people and vehicles returning to the United Society." Oh, Sotingyu nodded. "Since none of my passive defense items responded, there should be no problem." After the scan was completed, the truck started moving again, as if it had entered some passage. After driving for a while, we stopped again. Immediately afterwards, Sotingyu felt that the entire truck was falling. "It feels like riding on a freight elevator." It probably went a few hundred meters underground before stopping. The truck drove slowly for a short distance and stopped in the parking space. Afterwards, Yeji and Lu Shengshen opened the carriage door and asked Sotingyu and the children to get out of the car. "Here we are, here is the United Society." "Wait a minute, you still have to go for a physical examination and registration information. Then, someone will arrange your accommodation." Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuan-Kei. Chapter 1062. Sotingyu jumped out of the car and looked at the large underground parking lot. Li Wenyu and the others went to talk to the staff in the parking lot, while Lu Shengshen was responsible for taking care of the children. Yeji introduced to Sotingyu, "This is the parking lot of the United Society. All vehicles coming and going are parked here." Oh! Sotingyu's eyes fell on the group of children. When they came to a new place, the children were a little timid, but they held on and stayed quietly without making any noise. Yeji saw that Sotingyu kept looking at the children, so she said, "Wait a minute, there will be specialized personnel to take away the children, and then assign them a place to live and follow up work." Work? These children? Sotingyu was a little surprised. Yeji's tone was calm, with a hint of coldness. "Of course, the United Society will not raise useless trash. Oh no, not only the United Society, but any force in the wasteland will not raise idlers. You have to have value to be able to have the security of life, even if it's just a child. In addition, if these children can find a job, it will be a relatively good outcome. If they cannot even find a job, then the situation of these children will be unimaginable." Hearing this, Sotingyu looked thoughtful. This world is really very different. When Yeji talked about her children's work, her tone was normal. So, this phenomenon seems to be very common in the wasteland. And what they said just now did not avoid those children. When those children heard that they could be assigned jobs, some of the older and more sensible children seemed to be relieved. Sotingyu couldn't help but feel curious. If these children do not have jobs, then how should this joint organization arrange for these children? At this time, Li Wenyu came over and said, "Your situation is special, you should stay with us first." Sotingyu nodded, "Yeah, okay. In addition, with your skills, you can actually consider joining our United Society. If you become a member of the United Society, and you want to use the United Society to find your friends, the process will be more convenient." "Join?" Sotingyu was a little surprised. "Didn't you say that it is difficult to join the United Society?" Li Wenyu smiled on his face. "That's just for ordinary people. You are very skilled. When facing more than 20 monsters, you were able to avoid injury and successfully repel them. I believe the United Society will be interested in you. Then I want to ask, if I join, can I still go out freely? Because I still have to go find my friends, and I also have other things to do." Sotingyu did not refuse immediately, but continued to ask more about the situation of the United Society. After all, she is not from this dungeon world, and the main mission is the most important. It may be difficult to go out freely, but for a daily patrol team like ours, it is possible to go out. As long as you are assigned to a patrol team, you can go out with the members of the team. After speaking, Li Wenyu paused. Of course, if you are confident that your strength is fine, you can also act alone. Su Tingyu nodded. Oh. From this point of view, joining the United Society is not impossible. Outside the ruins of a building somewhere, two men came out of the ruins and looked at each other. How's it going? Did you find it? No, the other person shook his head. I thought I was so lucky when I first entered the dungeon and met an alien player, but he ran away. That damn fat man. He's so flexible, and his whole body is like a turtle shell. Forget it, I can't find it now, let's go first. The two left very disappointed. 10 minutes later, the figures of the two people suddenly appeared again. The two looked around, but there was still no third person besides them. Let me just say, there's no one here. That's weird. Did that damn fat guy really run away? Gone. In a secret basement inside the ruins of the building, Fatty opened a crack and secretly observed what was going on outside. This time, they should have really left. The fat man fell softly to the ground. To be on the safe side, let's wait for a while before leaving. Opposite the fat man, a female voice came. It was none other than Shan Yu. Fatty was a little unlucky this time. After entering the dungeon, he wanted to find someone to ask about the situation in the dungeon world. As a result, two alien players were directly found. What's worse is that the identity of the two alien players was revealed in just one meeting. What happened next was naturally that Fatty was chased by these two alien players. While escaping, Fatty used the liaison machine to urgently contact several companions. Just in time, the liaison machine detected the nearest Shan Yu. After Shan Yu learned about Fatty's situation, he immediately looked for such a secret place. Then, let the fat man escape in this direction. After running over, the two hid here. Single star, I didn't expect you to be the first person I met. Now that the crisis has been resolved, the fat man has a naive smile on his face again. Shan Yu nodded, yes, we are pretty lucky. After all, being able to meet acquaintances as soon as you enter the dungeon is also an advantage. Taking advantage of his free time, Fatty continued to use the contact machine to contact other people. However, the range that the contact machine can contact is also relatively limited. If it exceeds this range, it will be difficult to detect people. Huh? Yes. After Fatty waited for a few minutes, the contact machine finally made some movement. It seems, he's the boss. Hearing this, Shan Yu's eyes flashed slightly. However, the boss's location is a bit far away from us, almost beyond the contact range of the liaison machine. The fat man scratched his head. Shan Yu said, send him a message first. Yes, send it immediately. The fat man immediately operated on his hands and sent out the message. After waiting for a while, Gucci sent a message over there. The fat man raised his head and looked at Shan Yu. The boss replied and told us to wait here for him to come. Shan Yu raised his eyebrows slightly, waiting for him. Yeah. Shan Yu asked again, how far is the distance? The fat man made an estimate and said, it's probably about 10 kilometers. Hearing this, Shan Yu stood up slowly, let's go this way, and then the two parties will meet up. It won't waste too much time. Yes, the fat man nodded. Wait a moment. I'm going to take care of something. Before Fatty told Gucci over there that he was going to meet him, he received another new message from Gucci. Fatty told Shan Yu these two sentences. That's what the boss said. The fat man was very puzzled. This is so good. I just entered the dungeon. What do I have to deal with? Shan Yu frowned slightly. No matter what he wants to do, we just go and meet him. Oh. The fat man put away the communication machine and left here. At this time, Shan Yu lowered his head to look at his current clothes, raised his head and said, "Fat man, please go out for a while I change my clothes and shoes." Even though she knew she was going to enter the dungeon, Shan Yu still dressed up brightly, with a red skirt, high heels and a lot of makeup. From head to toe, everything is exquisite and gorgeous. However, this outfit is not suitable for the current situation in this wasteland world. "Oh, okay," the fat man nodded and walked out. After leaving the basement, Fatty deliberately walked a little further away. And just after the fat man left, Shan Yu suddenly bent down and tightly grasped the fabric in front of his heart with his left hand. Huh. Diddy, tap. A few drops of blood stained the ground, blooming and turning into small flowers. Shan Yu took out a pack of wet wipes from the inventory, took out one, and wiped the remaining blood at the corner of his mouth. Then, he crumpled the paper towel into a ball and threw it in the corner. In her mind, she couldn't help but recall some of the words Du Jiwei said to her in her ear before entering the dungeon. "You are lucky to be the only one who can live to be 30. Use the dream repair agent first, and then enter the dungeon. To live, this world may not be as bad as you imagine." After thinking about it, Shan Yu couldn't help but chuckle. "You can't even convince yourself, how can you be a spiritual mentor?" Shan Yu knew very well that if he hadn't secretly let Du Jiwei use the dream repair agent, the girl would probably have continued to be confused. But now, people who originally thought about committing suicide and harming themselves every day can actually persuade others to think more openly. In the dark basement, a sigh sounded. "You can start over, but not everyone can." Associated Press, inside. "What? Do you want to hand over something?" Sutingyu glanced at the Liu stick in his hand, and said without giving up, "This is an ordinary stick, I can just hold it casually, right?" Li Wenliu shook his head. "This point has been reported to the past. Ordinary sticks cannot repel the demon. There is no damage yet. There is a clear rule within the United Association that weapons cannot be carried in non-combat areas, especially weapons with high destructive power. For it." Sutingyu glanced at the same Liu stick. "If you hand it over, when can you get it back? If you become a combat member of the United Society and live on the outskirts, you can carry weapons." Oh. Sutingyu was still a little depressed. "Just hand it over." It was also possible that the United Society had become interested in her meteor rod and wanted to seize it and study it carefully. But this is a game prop, so I guess they can't do anything with it. Sutingyu thought for a while and said, "Then wait, I'm not worried, I'm afraid it might get worn out, so I'll do some maintenance first." Now. How long? Li Wenliu couldn't react for a while. "Stick, maintenance. All right. The stick that can repel demons must be taken good care of. Quickly." When he appeared before, Sutingyu specially carried a backpack in order to hide his identity from others. So, Sutingyu pretended to take a bottle of strange liquid from the inside, and then spread it evenly on it. This is a rather strange magic potion that Sutingyu discovered in the magic book. Its function is to hide and camouflage, and is only effective for non-living objects. After Sutingyu was painted on the Liu stick, no matter how much others thought about it, they could only detect that it was an ordinary stick. After the liquid dried, Sutingyu handed over the meteor rod. Afterwards, Sutingyu filled in his basic information. Of course, half-truths and half-false information will not matter much even if it is filled in. Anyway, there is no organizational force in the wasteland world that can powerfully control an area. Even within the areas within their sphere of influence, many people and species are unfamiliar. After collecting the information, Li Wenliu came over and said, "I've already mentioned it to a few friends from the patrol team and will help you pay attention." Sutingyu, "Okay, thank you. Thank you for everything you want." Li Wenliu waved his hand. "As for your joining the United Society, I told the Ministry of Armed Forces and they asked you to go first. Good. Li Wenyu and Yeji took Sutingyu to see the prosecutor above. Inside an office. Sutingyu and the others pushed the door open and saw a man on the sofa. The man has exquisite three-dimensional facial features and is of mixed blood. His hair is black, but the ends are slightly curled. Brother Chi, Li Wenyu greeted this man. Brother Chi waved his hand. You two go out first, I will talk to this little sister alone. Li Wenyu and Yeji nodded, okay. After the two of them left, Brother Chi stood up and circled around Sutingyu, looking at her constantly. Why do you want to join the United Society? Sutingyu blinked, look for my friend. If Li Wenyu and the others hadn't repeatedly promised that it was you who saved them, it would be really hard to believe it. Can I join the United Society? Sutingyu did not answer, but asked directly. In this way, Sutingyu stayed in the United Society for the time being. When Sutingyu found an excuse to go to the toilet, she quickly took out her phone and tried to contact Qin Chi and the others. However, after searching for a long time, the contact machine has not responded yet. Are they not nearby? Sutingyu was a little confused. If it's not near the United Society, then when Sutingyu finds out what the trace of life is, he can consider leaving the United Society and going somewhere else. You, are you okay? Yeji's voice came from outside. Okay, coming right away. Seeing that the contact machine could not be searched, Sutingyu could only give up temporarily. Taking back the contact phone, Sutingyu walked out with a calm expression. Now that they can't contact Qin Chi and the others, they can only concentrate on looking for information about the main mission. Traces of life. Players in the first 12 worlds can only advance if they find them. Sutingyu didn't know what would happen if the promotion was successful or failed. But the winning side must be good. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuan-Kei. Chapter 1063. Sutingyu was just about to open the toilet door when a new message suddenly came through the phone. Sutingyu lowered his head and took a look. Huh? Is this a notification from Miracle Red? We need to gather at this place. Sutingyu thought for a while and decided to stay in the United Society first. Anyway, she is not in any danger now. Miracle Red's gathering is aimed at those players who lack strength alone. Gathering them together can at least increase the survival rate. Sutingyu sent the information he had just obtained about the Wasteland world to the Miracle Red member, and then put the liaison machine back in the inventory. After seeing Sutingyu come out, Yeji said, I'll take you to familiarize yourself with the outer area. Yeah, thank you, Sister Yet. The other side. After contacting the fat man, Gucci took back the contact phone. He was currently hiding in a crooked and dangerous building. Downstairs, some voices could be heard intermittently. They're all here. Let's go in first. Gucci closed his eyes, and soon, a three-dimensional blueprint of the entire building began to appear in his mind. Among them, those who were active downstairs were also included. Every step of walking, every breath, can be clearly felt. After being blessed in another world, Gucci returned and found that all his abilities seemed to have been greatly improved. Nowadays, this ability to see through space can be used more freely. The time it can be used continuously is several times longer than before. As for the whole journey, Gucci followed the people below and used his abilities from time to time without feeling tired. The reason why Gucci followed those people below was all because Chuzinyu, I haven't seen you for a long time. I didn't expect you to be alive. Of course you're still alive and you're not dead. How could I be willing to die? When he heard those three words, Gucci's hand hanging by his side suddenly clenched into a fist. In his mind, he recalled uncontrollably what Guyan had said to him before he left. Stop looking for Chuzinyu. That's the grudge between me and her, it has nothing to do with you, you know. At that time, Gucci avoided Guyan's eyes. He can't do it. There is a new moon in the day, which reminds Gucci all the time. His existence. No, he has no right to exist in this world at all. During those days in the other world, the owner and his aunt were very kind to him. So good, that it gave Gucci the illusion. As if he was their child. But they are all fake. When he was getting along with his aunt, he always felt a heavy sense of guilt, tugging at his heart. These are like dreams that are easily broken. The head of the family is already thinking of ways to treat his aunt. If his aunt could really wake up, she would never treat him as tenderly as before. Choosing you, he must kill this person. Only in this way can the guilt in his heart be alleviated a little. Gucci calmed down and continued to eavesdrop on the situation below. Although he met Chu Xinyu, Gucci was not completely overwhelmed by hatred. His intuition told him that Chu Xinyu was plotting something now. Not long after entering the dungeon, so many players can gather here. Chu Xinyu, what does she want to do? Gucci frowned, puzzled. At this time, some more people came to the dangerous building. Gucci looked at one of the women and felt that she looked familiar. Correct. It was the one she met in the Yin-Yang City dungeon, Su Jian. At that time, she was with Chu Xinyu. Are all those people from the Yin-Yang Star? Suddenly, a somewhat absurd idea flashed through Gucci's heart. Isn't Chu Xinyu from Blue Star? During the time he spent with Guyan, Gucci also noticed some clues. Gucci then thought of Guyan's attitude towards Chu Xinyu. There is disdain, disgust, it seems that there is also a little fear. What are you afraid of? Are you worried that Chu Xinyu is not a Blue Star person? But someone from another world with special abilities? If Chu Xinyu is really not from Blue Star, then by the same token, she cannot be a player from the Blue Star camp. The head of the family once said that this public beta is related to the future of the parallel world, and Yin-Yang Star has already withdrawn from the public beta, so why are there still people from Yin-Yang Star participating in the public beta now? Doubts appeared one after another, which for a time diluted Gucci's original chaotic emotions. At this time, there was a commotion below. Your Excellency Farah. Lord Farah, you are finally here. Gucci's expression moved slightly. Someone is coming again? A man came. However, judging from Chu Xinyu's and the others' reactions, it seemed like they had great respect for this man. That person. Gucci felt that he was not like an ordinary player. Just when Gucci was having doubts, the man's panel popped out. He couldn't see the contents of the panel, but when he saw the black and white color displayed on the panel, his expression changed. Black and white panel, is this the administrator? Not good. Can't stay here any longer. Without any time to think about it, Gucci left immediately. Just when Gucci walked to the window, Farah downstairs seemed to have noticed something, and his eyes suddenly turned sharp. Who is there? Chu Xinyu had a question mark on her face. What's wrong? Gucci, who was upstairs, heard the noise and jumped out of the window to leave. Someone is a player. There, Farah stretched out his hand and pointed in the direction Gucci left. With just this slight finger, his fingertips condensed a wave of light in an instant and shot it out. Dash boom. Farah frowned slightly. Hit. But it seems like he missed. Chu Xinyu winked at the person next to her. Go out and have a look. The group of people immediately rushed out of the building. On the ground that was blasted into a black pit outside, there was no one around, leaving only some blood stains. People ran away. Farah, who realized this, looked very unhappy. He must be killed. Farah looked at Chu Xinyu. It is not appropriate for our affairs to be exposed now. You continue to act as planned. I will catch this little mouse. Chu Xinyu nodded, okay. She knew how terrifying Farah's strength was, so she felt relieved when she heard that he was going to take action himself. Besides, Farah is the administrator. And the other party is just a player. Cough cough cough. Gucci ran for a certain distance and couldn't help but stop. He raised his hand to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth, took out some injury control medicine from his inventory and took it. Why did the administrator come into contact with Chu Xinyu? An administrator from another world? Could it be that he is the administrator of Yin Yang Star? So what do they want to do this time? Gucci was about to leave here when an eerie voice came from not far ahead. Friend, do you still want to leave? At some point, Farah had stopped in front of Gucci and sneered. Gucci's nerves became tense instantly. He slowly took a few steps back, quietly distanced himself, and said to attract attention, when can the administrator directly interfere with the copy and players? Farah's eyes were a little surprised, but soon, they were replaced by a look of ruthlessness. It seems that you know a lot. It is true that the administrator cannot interfere, but there are no absolutes in this world. But you are still too naive. Hearing this, Gucci's heart sank. The head of the family once said that if you encounter an administrator from another world, do not try to approach him, but run away immediately. But now, Gucci's expression suddenly changed. Farah, who noticed that Gucci was strange, burst out laughing. What? Did you react? Gucci had no time to pay attention to Farah's ridicule, because at this time, his body couldn't move. Not only that, it seemed as if everything around him was quietly coming to a standstill. In this still space, Farah has all the sovereignty. Puff. Gucci's abdomen seemed to have been hit hard suddenly. The injury that had been suppressed with great difficulty began to recur again, and a mouthful of blood spurted out. But Gucci still stood upright on the spot, except for his expression showing a bit of pain, like a wooden man. The entire inventory showed no response at all. Gucci was very surprised. Is this what an administrator can do? When a player confronts an administrator, it's really like what the owner said, there's no way he can fight back. The next second, Gucci was forced to kneel on the ground. Something heavy seemed to be pressing down on his back, trying to crush him bit by bit. Ahem. No. We must take back control of our body. A faint purple light flashed in Gucci's cat eyes. Farah had had enough fun and was about to strangle the little mouse in front of her to death. Gucci gritted his teeth and said, Ling. As soon as he finished speaking, a thin transparent line appeared between Gucci's fingers. At one end of the thin line, a cool white light lit up. In the white light, a man in white fell gracefully. His long silver hair was scattered casually on his body, making this man clean and pure. You actually have a spirit bond. Farah looked shocked, but quickly calmed down. It's just a bond. Although it is not common, players like these may have never seen much of the world. When they see a more powerful spirit, they will be bound to a contract spirit. But the next second, Farah couldn't calm down. Ling just raised her hand slightly, and suddenly, the entire still space began to collapse. Gucci also regained his freedom at this time. Farah's eyes became suspicious. This kind of breath. This is no ordinary bonded spirit. Seeing that the space was about to disappear, Farah randomly operated on the panel again, and slowly, the space condensed again. In the end, the space still couldn't be opened. However, Ling continued to protect Gucci so that the latter would not be controlled. It's just a pity that you did have a good contract spirit, but it fell into your hands and wasted, Farah said with disdain. I'm fine. Seeing Ling keep looking at him, Gucci replied. Then, Gucci turned to look at Farah. It's enough to deal with you. Farah laughed, as if she had heard some joke. Just you. I didn't know who it was just now, but I controlled it like a puppet on strings. Gucci said calmly, you have to maintain the space at all times, otherwise, it will be easy for other administrators to discover your violation and attack the players directly. Am I right? The smile on Farah's face slowly faded. Do you want to kill me? Or do you want to continue to maintain this space? Gucci was delaying time while secretly using the medicine in the inventory to recover as much damage as he could. Farah smiled ferociously, as long as I kill you as quickly as possible, why bother? As soon as the words fell, Farah's figure disappeared from the spot. When he appeared again, it was behind Gucci. Gucci's heart trembled slightly, so fast. At some point, Farah had a long sword in his hand, and when he was about to pierce Gucci's body, his way was blocked by thin transparent wires. Taking advantage of this gap, Gucci continued to distance himself from Farah. Ling. Gucci didn't say anything, and Ling nodded slightly. The next second, the latter's whole body turned into a faint white light again. In the white light, there seemed to be a trace of twinkling silver stars. That white light attached to Gucci's body, and in an instant, the aura around him was completely changed, becoming less sharp and more cold. Farah narrowed his eyes slightly, possessed by a contract spirit. After Farah cut off the unsightly thin threads in front of his eyes, they all dissipated into wisps of white light and flew back into Gucci's body. Oh, I'm afraid you can't stand it if you, a mere mortal, want to use extraordinary power. Gucci didn't reply. With a slight movement of his fingertips, an overwhelming amount of transparent thin lines began to surround Farah. The seemingly powerless thin thread was cut open in an instant even if the breeze blew by. The other side. Fatty and Shan Yu wanted to meet up with Gucci, but found that Gucci had been moving away from them. The fat man ran out of breath. This boss, why is he running further and further away? It would be great if the boss is here. She has a car there and can just drive it. Fatty missed Sutingyu very much. Shan Yu raised his hand and wiped off some sweat from his forehead. Even if there is, it can't be opened. This world obviously seems to be in decline. If Susu takes out the original thing, I'm afraid she will be targeted by the NPC. Oh, yes. When Fatty thought about it, it felt right. I don't know what the boss is doing. The fat man glanced at the contact machine again. This time, he found that Gucci had stopped again. The fat man's face was filled with joy. The boss is not leaving. The matter should be done. Shan Yu is not so optimistic. If you are really done with your work, you should send a message back to the fat man and then go back to them instead of just staying there. Unless. Shan Yu's eyes darkened. Fat man, didn't you have Miracle Hong's contact just now? Ask them if they know where Susu is. This is a good idea. But aren't we going to find the boss now? The fat man was puzzled. Find Susu first. There is a guarantee. I feel that Gucci is in trouble. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a Bug in a Survival Game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 1064. After some manipulation, Fatty finally got the information about Sutingyu. There is news about Miracle Hong from the boss, but she is not within our contact range now. Shan Yu thought for 2 seconds and said, Fat man, let's do this. You go find a way to contact Susu, and I'll go find Gucci first. Okay, that's it, keep in touch. The fat man nodded. As a result, the two separated. In a closed space. Ha ha ha. It's useless. Farah's laughter was wild. He was very confident that a mere player, no matter what game props he had, could not defeat him as an administrator. This is the mechanism of parallel paradise. If the administrator is not more powerful than the players, he is not considered an administrator. Keep struggling. Ha ha ha. Farah was like playing with his prey. No matter what kind of attack Gucci made, He pretended to be cool and confident and dodged it. And in this laughter, there is also hidden murderous intention. The long sword in Farah's hand is extraordinary. It is a treasure that can automatically see through the enemy's flaws. When attacking, it will guide the user to hit the enemy's weakness with one strike. As time passed bit by bit, Gucci's physical strength gradually became exhausted. It is uncomfortable to remain possessed by a bonded spirit, and it places a huge burden on the host. It's time to end. Farah's eyes were sharp and he swung his sword to stab at the flaw exposed by Gucci's momentary negligence. And at this moment, the invisible air around Farah seemed to solidify and become extremely sharp. This is. Farah was forced to stop. Because there were countless thin lines all over his body that blocked all escape routes at some point. There is no hiding. There is no way to retreat. You are very strong, but you underestimate others, Gucci said slowly, and the silk thread on his hand was getting tighter and tighter. Gucci looked directly at Farah, his pair of shining purple cat eyes fully exposed. These eyes. Farah's pupils shrank. Are you their descendant? This is impossible. How could it be such a coincidence? Gucci ignored Farah and continued to tighten the transparent silk thread in his hand. Damn it! You're a Blue Star player, right? I remember you. As soon as he finished speaking, Farah's body was cut into several pieces. No breath at all. Escaped. Gucci murmured. This was the feedback given to him by Ling. Cough cough cough. Gucci fell to the ground, coughing uncontrollably. Every time he coughed up blood. Gucci secretly breathed a sigh of relief. This is the strength of the administrator, it is so desperate that it is difficult to have any room for resistance. Fortunately, the guy was careless. Gucci. How is the situation over there? I went to find you. Please reply if you are okay. Gucci's eyes paused slightly as he looked at these pieces of information. Is her single feather. Gucci felt pain all over his body. He didn't feel anything just now, but as soon as he relaxed, he felt like he couldn't even lift a finger. Fortunately, the liaison machine is now in the inventory, there is no need to take it out, it can be used directly like this. Gucci input content, After sending the message, Gucci closed his eyes tiredly. After just adjusting his breath for a few seconds, he opened his eyes again and looked at the newly received information from the contact machine. Finally willing to reply. The fat man tried to find a way to contact Susu and the others. I'll go find you now. Gucci looked for a temporary hiding place while reading the messages sent one after another from Shan Yu. Gucci felt that his whole body was very tired, and he really wanted to take a nap, just take a nap. Gucci hid in the ruins. He huddled up and looked at the content on the panel. His vision had become blurry and began to turn black. Finally, he closed his eyes. When Shan Yu found Gucci, the latter still maintained his original appearance without any changes. What's going on? It's such a mess. When Shan Yu saw Gucci for the first time, he saw how weak the latter was and made a habit of teasing him. However, she didn't hear any response. Shan Yu immediately noticed something was wrong. Gucci. Shan Yu walked over in a few steps and was about to stretch out his hand to push Gucci, but he stopped in mid-air. Shan Yu hesitated and retracted his hand. Gucci? Gucci. Seeing that Gucci really didn't react at all, Shan Yu took out a bunch of medicines to treat injuries from the inventory and found some suitable ones. Shan Yu took the syringe and gently pushed the medicine in the syringe into Gucci's body. After pulling out the needle, Shan Yu took another forehead patch and put it on Gucci's forehead. This is a game prop that can quickly restore consciousness to unconscious people. After doing this, Shan Yu could only choose to wait. Fortunately, after a few minutes, Gucci, who had been unconscious, finally responded. Cough cough cough. After waking up, Gucci coughed violently several times. Shan Yu could clearly see that Gucci had already coughed up blood. Gucci? Why are you injured so badly? What happened? Shan Yu saw that the person had woken up and asked quickly. Gucci slowly raised his head and glanced at Shan Yu, then lay back down again. Gucci didn't speak. But his expression showed some weakness that could not be hidden. Seeing this, Shan Yu wisely did not continue to ask, "It's not safe here. We have to find a safe place and wait for the fat man to come over." Looking at this situation, Shan Yu would not be able to lead people on a long journey. Ahem. Gucci glanced at Shan Yu, and just as he was about to say something, his throat felt itchy, and he suddenly started coughing uncontrollably. "Forget it, you can rest first." Shan Yu stood up and said, "I'm going out to find out if there is a better shelter. If you need anything, use the liaison phone to contact me." Gucci watched Shan Yu leave here, then took out the medicine from the inventory and took several. And this only made Gucci slightly less likely to cough. Gucci knew very well that his current situation was that he was possessed by the bonded spirit just now. Because the time was too long and the burden was too heavy, something went wrong with his body. Gucci thought about how he finally met Chu Xinyu. This time, we must kill her. Thinking of this, I became excited and coughed twice more, ahem. After taking the medicine, Gucci lay flat on the ground. After a few seconds, he thought for a moment and released a little guy who looked like a cat. As soon as the little guy came out, he clung to Gucci. Seeing that Gucci seemed to be injured, he also cried out anxiously. Gucci raised his hand and touched the kitten's head. Then, he closed his eyes and continued to rest. The kitten walked around Gucci twice, and finally found a comfortable position that didn't press against Gucci, and lay down. The kitten would look up from time to time, and then flick its tail in boredom. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuan-Ke. Chapter 1065. The Other Side. Farah's figure instantly appeared in front of Chu Xinyu. Ahem. At this moment, Farah seemed to have no entity, floating in the air. Chu Xinyu frowned, crossed her arms and asked, "What happened to you? Why are you so embarrassed? Where is that player?" Farah's face looked very bad at the moment, but he could only say reluctantly, "He ran away." Chu Xinyu was very surprised, "What's going on? Who is he? He can escape from your hands." Although the person ran away, I also found the player's identity information. Farah didn't want to talk too much about this embarrassing incident. Blue Star Player, the game nickname is Ha. Hearing this, Chu Xinyu's pupils dilated for a moment, and then she laughed out loud. It turned out to be him. What a coincidence. Farah immediately asked, "What? Do you know that player?" "I know him. He's just a child with a fragile heart." "There's nothing to be afraid of." The corner of Chu Xinyu's mouth raised slightly, as if she had thought of something interesting. "Since you know him, in this round of dungeons, you are responsible for killing that player." A trace of ruthlessness flashed in Farah's eyes. If it weren't for the fact that he had lost his coming body and could no longer contact people and things in this world, he would have definitely killed that kid himself to avenge his shame. Now that he has escaped, and the dungeon world is so big, I don't know where he can go. How can I find him? Although Chu Xinyu was excited and wanted to meet the children, she didn't want to go through a stupid search. "Don't worry, he can't run far. Although he can hurt me, the price he pays is also heavy. At least, he may not be able to walk now," Farah said coldly. "Let's do this. I can provide you with 30 seconds of positioning information. During these 30 seconds, you will know all his movement trajectories." "Only 30 seconds, Chu Xinyu was a little dissatisfied. Farah pointed at the top. "There are many pairs of eyes staring at it. 30 seconds is already a good time. If it's any longer, I'm afraid you will be discovered, and you won't be able to escape by then. Hearing this, Chu Xinyu couldn't say anything else. Okay, then 30 seconds will be 30 seconds. Really looking forward to it. Kid. Shan Yu is back. But as soon as I came back, I saw a strange kitten, which stopped me in my tracks. When the kitten heard the noise, its ears twitched slightly, glanced at Shan Yu, and then gently rubbed his head against it. Guqi opened his eyes. This is. Guqi explained quietly, my pet beast. Oh, hearing this, Shan Yu didn't care about the little kitten. I found a hiding place for the time being. I will take you there now. How are you? Can you still live? Guqi glanced at Shan Yu, said nothing, and stretched out his hands to sit up on the ground. But halfway through, he fell down. Shan Yu quickly supported the person. What you did is a bit miserable. I saw Chu Xinyu. Guqi suddenly spoke. Shan Yu was not surprised when he heard this. The only surprise was that Guqi would say it. There's also an administrator. Shan Yu frowned. What is an administrator? Guqi tilted his head and glanced at her. Have you ever thought that with so many copies of Parallel Paradise, no one would be responsible for ensuring its stable operation? Administrators are just this type of person. Then how did the administrator get involved with that old woman? Shan Yu asked. Guqi was silent for a moment and replied, I don't know yet, it seems like they are plotting something. According to the regulations of Parallel Park, administrators cannot contact players, nor can they interfere with running copies. So, the injuries you suffered were all because of that administrator. Shan Yu's eyes were slightly surprised. Guqi, yeah. Shan Yu realized a problem at this time. If the other party is really an administrator, then he can change the rules of the dungeon and find us directly. It should be very easy. You can leave now. Guqi's tone was surprisingly calm, analyzing the pros and cons. Even if it's against me, it's only against me. Sounds pretty good. Shan Yu showed some excitement on his face, but he didn't move even half a step. Okay, that place is a bit far. It might be a bit difficult for me to drag you there alone. Before Shan Yu could even finish his words, the body of the kitten beside him suddenly expanded several times in size, from being only as high as Shan Yu's calves to becoming a beast that was several heads taller than Shan Yu. Shan Yu, you. The big cat squatted down in front of Guqi, Paiju. Seeing this, Shan Yu helped Guqi so that the latter could sit on the big cat's back. Later, Shan Yu took the man and the cat to an abandoned underground air raid shelter he found. When we first came here, there were still a few rotting and smelly corpses inside, but Shan Yu had already dragged them to the corner. Just stay here for now. Shan Yu bought a lot of miscellaneous things in the mall, and now he can even take out a couch. Guqi looked at the sofa and was silent for 2 seconds. Did you spend your game coins on these things? If it were an alliance organization, it would be understandable to spend game currency in a place like this, but Shan Yu is just one person. Shan Yu asked back, is there a problem? Or do you want to sit on this dirty ground? Shan Yu helped the person over and sat on the other end. I'm really tired from walking, but I can still sit down. The big cat turned and walked to the entrance of the air raid shelter, then shrunk in size and stood guard there. Guqi took out various medicines from the inventory, distinguished their effects, and chose a few to use. Shan Yu looked at Guqi's face, still very weak. Why is your injury a bit strange? It can't be cured even with so many medicines. Guqi whispered the word. Nothing. Immediately, Guqi fell silent again. When Shan Yu saw that Guqi had stopped talking, he took out his phone and wanted to contact Fatty. But at this time, Fatty should be far away, and there is no way to contact Fatty. At this time, Fatty hurried on desperately and finally contacted a member of Miracle Red, and then asked the latter to help find a player named Angel Suk. The fat man waited for almost half an hour before there was a reply. Miracle Red member, Angel Su is in a force base in the dungeon world. That force is called the United Society. I'm afraid it will be difficult for you to go in and find her. Fatty, then I'll contact you outside, is that okay? Miracle Red member, then you have to be careful. There is a creature called a demon in this dungeon world, which specializes in hunting humans. It is very fast, very ferocious, and knows how to work as a team. Fatty, okay, thank you, dude. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 1066. Fat Man. Sutingyu, who had just viewed his residence in the United Society, received Fatty's message and became excited immediately. Is there any news about the Fat Man? Sutingyu quickly replied, Fat Man, where are you? The Fat Man over there was also very excited. Boss, I finally found you. I'm right now, right outside that or something, the United Society. By the way, I also found single stars and bosses. Sutingyu's eyes lit up. Really, then they are outside too. Fatty, no, the boss seems to have encountered something. The single star asked me to boss you, but she went to find the boss first. Sutingyu, oh, that's good, I'll find a way out. Sutingyu put away the communication phone and turned around to find Yeji. Sister Ye, can I go out for a walk now? Although the United Press said they can help me find friends, I don't want to wait around. Suting looked at Yeji with fishy eyes. Okay, Yeji nodded, you can just take any patrol mission and go out. But our team has just returned and needs supplies, so we may not be able to go out with you. It's okay, I can be alone. Sutingyu waved his hand. Are you alone? Yeji was a little surprised, but when she thought about Sutingyu's strength, she felt it was normal again and said, you should go through the approval process first and see if it works. Usually newcomers will first practice with a few teams. Your situation is a bit special. Is it really so urgent? You can wait for a while before going out. Sutingyu shook his head, I'm anxious. I want to find someone as soon as possible. This definitely can't wait. Not to mention the trouble caused by a few more people, it is difficult to explain clearly. Besides, Fatty is still waiting outside. Seeing Sutingyu's insistence, Yeji stopped trying to persuade her. Okay, I'll take you for approval. Sutingyu asked, how long will it take? Usually 2 hours is enough, Yeji replied. Oh. Hiss. 2 hours, is too long. Sutingyu frowned. But there was nothing he could do. After entering the United Society, Sutingyu still wanted to find clues about the mission in the United Society, so he had to continue to abide by the rules here. Shan Yu supported his chin with one hand and looked at Gucci, who was adjusting his breath. Can your injury be cured? You can't stay here forever, can you? Not to mention whether they will be targeted again by that administrator, and they also have their tasks to do. That's why I told you to leave first. Gucci opened his eyes and replied. Shan Yu clicked his tongue softly, you asked me to leave? I'll leave you here alone. Gucci, who is pitiful? Shan Yu, whoever it is should be that person. The kitten at the exit glanced inside, then turned around again when there was no movement. After a while, Shan Yu said, you're so injured, you really can't help it, okay. We have to wait a little longer. There is a prop that can be used, but it is still cooling down. Gucci was silent for a moment and replied. Shan Yu, how long? Gucci, 12 hours. Piju. The kitten lightly jumped onto Gucci's legs, and then walked back and forth. Shan Yu looked at Gucci and said, what's wrong with it? Gucci's expression condensed slightly, someone is coming. Who is he? Fatty. Shan Yu glanced at the contact machine but had no reaction. Not a fat man. Gucci glanced at Shan Yu and said, you go first. Not fat. That means, the person who came here is evil. Upon hearing this, Shan Yu raised his eyebrows slightly, are you sure? Is this how you are now? I have it. Gucci stroked the hair on the kitten's ears. You keep it to hold me back. Okay, that's all right. Do you have the consciousness of treating yourself as an injured person? Shan Yu rolled his eyes slightly. You can't walk or stand up, and you still dislike others for holding you back. Seeing that he couldn't drive away the people, Gucci lowered his head and asked the kitten, how many people are there? Piju. 6. Shan Yu was startled, 6? Then leave quickly. Although this little kitten is very powerful after its transformation, it's not sure if it can fight with more than less. Besides, it doesn't necessarily have to be just 6. Gucci patted the kitten on the head, go ahead. The kitten jumped down and walked towards the exit. Seeing this, Shan Yu asked, what's wrong? Clean off these tails before leaving, Gucci explained. Just one. It was impossible for Gucci to really fight to the death with that administrator and die together. Considering that even if you can escape from the administrator's hands, if you are seriously injured, it will be very dangerous in this wasteland world. However, Gucci also has his own pet beast, which can solve this problem. Seeing that Gucci was not joking, Shan Yu could only choose to believe it. However, Shan Yu would check the contact machine from time to time to confirm if there was any news about Fatty. The little cat made a big fuss, and at first, no one thought of Gucci. After the kitten returned to the cave, Gucci and Shan Yu were ready to leave here. At this time, a group of people outside approached the air raid shelter. In one direction, there were 6 people, 4 men and 2 women. In such a big battle, there is only one seriously injured player, so just go by yourself. A man couldn't help but speak first. What we want is to capture them alive, not to kill them. I don't know why I want to capture him alive. What's the use? It's just a player. You don't understand this, it's very useful at this time, a woman replied with an ambiguous expression. When the other men heard this, they immediately thought of their own traditions and felt a chill. If this parallel paradise didn't require people from the same world to support each other, they really wouldn't want to be with this group of women. Although Yin-Yang Star no longer has that kind of divine influence, the inherent concepts formed by humans on the 2 continents over a long period of time are not so easily changed. Women in the extreme Yin continent still believe that they dominate men, while men in the extreme Yang continent also believe that they dominate women. Among them, coupled with the rebels in the mainland, it becomes a mess. At the moment, it is because of the existence of the administrator that we can get along with each other calmly for the time being. We should be there soon, right in front. The player at the front pointed in a direction. The female player said excitedly, I can't wait to see what kind of player it is that even the administrator can't kill. Just as the 6 of them were about to move forward, they suddenly felt a chill behind them, as if they were being stared at by something. Ah! Suddenly, a scream sounded. It's behind. Hateful. One man was in a miserable state, with blood on his neck. There was a claw mark there. And in front of the 6 people, a big cat appeared. What is this? Why did it come out suddenly? When the 6 people saw the big cat that suddenly appeared, their faces were filled with surprise and uncertainty. Be careful. This thing even contains ice cubes, be careful. Before he could finish his words, an ice pick suddenly appeared on the ground in front of the man. In an instant, it penetrated the entire body. Others saw the scene and became more cautious. The big cat stared at these people with heavy eyes, and frost would form on the ground with every step they took. Slowly, even the dry weather environment around him seemed to be affected, and a slight chill came over him. Is this a demon? Mutated monster? But the appearance doesn't look very similar. Someone said, let's find another way. There is no need to waste time and energy. We have just entered the dungeon, and even if we encounter the current problem, no one is willing to expose their own methods or waste game props first. Besides, We are still in this team, each of which has its own agenda. Then let's go first. Just as a few people were about to leave, the big cat suddenly disappeared in front of everyone. What happened? Where did that guy go? The next second, the big cat quietly appeared behind them. Then, he stared at one of them and pounced directly on him. Before the man could react, he slapped his neck with a claw and crushed his head. What the hell kind of speed is this? When the others reacted, there was another body on the ground. In this copy, you will really die. After waiting for a while, the big cat with a trace of blood in its fur came back. The big cat lay down next to Gucci, who propped himself up and sat on the big cat. Seeing this, Shan Yu put the sofa back into the inventory and followed it. After waiting for the new hiding place, Shan Yu released the sofa again. It should be okay now, right? Shan Yu sat on the sofa, looking a little more relaxed. Those people should be sent by the administrator. If the administrator can really find your location all the time, it will be impossible. With that said, Shan Yu took out the contact machine again to see if there was any information about Fatty. At the moment, the two of them were moving in the direction that Shan Yu and Fatty came from in the beginning. Still can't connect. Shan Yu took back the contact machine. Gucci suddenly said, "There are more than a dozen people." "What?" Shan Yu was slightly startled and asked. Gucci replied, "What I saw originally was the manpower assembled by the administrator." Shan Yu's expression darkened. "That means there might be more." After all, Gucci was discovered midway, and it was not clear whether those he saw were all the people. If people from a world can enter and obey the administrator's arrangements, even if they don't have all of them, it will cost tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, right? If you really accidentally break something important, maybe he will really let more people come to arrest you. Gucci shook his head slightly. The specific things are not very clear, but administrators are not allowed to contact players in private, let alone enter running copies to intervene. Each of these is a serious violation of the regulations. However, even if he violates the rules, there is no way to complain about this thing. Otherwise, the players would have exploded it long ago. Shan Yu opened the panel, looked around, and closed it again. Wait, how do you know so clearly? Shan Yu realized something was wrong at this time. Gucci glanced over his head and said, "I have a way of knowing." Shan Yu, okay. Gucci rested for a while and stood up. "Let's go." Shan Yu, huh? Gucci explained, "Keep walking, let's bet that the administrator won't be able to find my location all the time." "That's okay." While Gucci and Shan Yu continued to change positions, Pharaoh was in trouble. No one was caught. How many people died? Idiot, Pharaoh cursed after getting the news. Those who came back dared not complain. Their death seemed to have been injured by some wild beast. In addition, there were puddles of water stains at the scene. Maybe that player has some props, and if they are not careful, they... Someone said hesitantly, "Sir, are those people they died really dead?" Pharaoh glanced at the man and said, "Otherwise. Do you think the third phase of the public beta is still just playing house? Keep looking. We must find that person." Someone put forward a different opinion, "Sir, we can't just look for that person all the time, we also have to complete the main mission." Chu Xinyu said, "Why don't we divide the troops into two groups? One group will do the main mission, and the other group will continue to look for people. This is acceptable." Farah thought for a moment and nodded. "Then you can divide your teams into teams." "Okay, my lord." After waiting for 2 hours, Sutingyu was finally allowed to come out. As soon as he came out, Sutingyu couldn't wait to find Fatty. "Fat man, where are they?" After finding them, Sutingyu said straight to the point. The fat man got out of the car and shook his head when he heard this. "It's not clear yet. I have to go back there first before I can contact the person." Now this place is too far away from the place where the two fat men originally separated, and they can't be contacted. Okay then, lead the way quickly. Sutingyu got into the passenger seat and fastened her seat belt. Yeah, okay. The fat man quickly started the car. Sutingyu looked at the retreating scenery outside the car window. Now we are only missing Kikai. By the way, boss, Miracle Red seems to have started to gather members. I don't know how many worlds and players there are in this dungeon. I feel like it will be safer with a large army, Fatty said. Sutingyu had a different opinion. Let's take a look first. Although the large army is safe, there are too many people and there are still troubles. When the fat man heard it, he felt it made sense. That's true too. Let's meet up with Guju and the others first. Sutingyu turned around and asked, what's going on over there with Guju? The fat man shook his head. I'm not sure. The boss didn't even meet us first. When Sutingyu heard this, he became a little confused, but at the moment he didn't worry too much. Guju's strength is not weak either, he should be fine. I'm just a little worried about the boss, so it's safer to come to you, the boss. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 1067. Sutingyu looked at the contact machine, turned to the fat man and said, there is still no signal from Guju and the others. The fat man took over the conversation. When I came, it took almost 2 hours, and then I waited for you, boss, for another 2 hours. Now the boss and the others may also be moving. Sutingyu suddenly thought of a way. Fat man, this is too slow. I'll take you flying. Ah, the fat man reacted slowly. Yes. Boss, she can fly, just like the previous copy. Okay, that's faster. Just do it. The fat man stopped the car, and then the two people got out of the car. After the fat man put the car back in the inventory, Sutingyu used his professional talent, and a pair of wings suddenly sprouted from his back, and he flew out with the fat man. Sutingyu, fat man, come and point me in the direction. Over there, boss. Well. After flying for almost 10 minutes, Fatty's contact machine suddenly received a signal from Shan Yu, and his face became excited. Boss. We've found the boss and the others. Where? There. After getting the exact location, Sutingyu and Fatty rushed over immediately. 15 minutes later, Sutingyu and the others successfully arrived at the hiding spot and met Guju and Shan Yu. Sutingyu trotted over, looking up and down at Guju and Shan Yu. Wow, 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 we finally found you. Shan Yu smiled and said, Susu, you are here. How is the situation? Guju, what happened to you here? Seeing that Gucci had been sitting on the sofa, Sutingyu walked over curiously and poked his arm. Gucci opened his eyes, with obvious disgust in his eyes, but he did not slap Sutingyu's hand away. Because, Gucci really didn't want to waste his energy. Sutingyu also noticed this problem immediately. Couldn't you have been kidnapped? Sutingyu, the fairy was shocked. JPG. Gucci, get out. Gucci used words to show that he had not been robbed. Shan Yu explained, he was injured, a very serious injury, and it's not healed yet. He couldn't even stand up at first. It's good to have the strength to talk to you now. That's it, Sutingyu suddenly realized, and then burst out laughing in the next second. Ha 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 ha. Guju, isn't it? You actually overturned the car? When Fatty and I came here, we both trusted you very much and said that nothing would happen to you. But what happened? You overturned, and you simply betrayed my trust in you. Get out of here. Gucci turned his head away, not wanting to see how Sutingyu laughed at him. Not numb, Sutingyu winked. Good brother, tell me quickly, How did you overturn the car? Tell me, sister, I will be happy. Gucci, go away. What Gucci responded to was Sotignu's merciless laughter, ha 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 ha. After Sotignu finished laughing, he started to ask more serious questions. What? Administrator. What is this? Gucci, the examiner for the global start of school is the administrator. Oh, Sotignu paused for 2 seconds, then immediately asked, what's the use of this stuff? Responsible for maintaining the normal operation of the copy and so on. Sotignu's eyes widened, the copy is running? How is that possible? Sotignu thought of some of the dungeons she had been in before, with a bunch of bugs that seemed to have been left unattended. Now tell her, are there administrators in charge? Nonsense. Nonsense. Believe it or not, Gucci was too lazy to talk to Sotignu about such useless topics. Right now, I am being targeted by the administrator. This round of dungeons may cause other troubles. Sotignu asked quickly, by the way, you said that Chuzinyu was walking with the administrator? Like he was plotting something. Yes, Gucci nodded slightly. Chuzinyu may not be from Blue Star, she may be from Yin Yang Star, and her current identity is still a Blue Star player. Is this a spy? Sotignu's eyes lit up. Gucci shook his head, I don't know. Wait a minute, Sotignu suddenly thought of a question. The administrator asked the players from Yin Yang Star to catch you. Right. He Sotignu laughed out loud, Yin Yang Star, this is easy. Sotignu couldn't guarantee whether he could beat players from other worlds. But for the players of Yin Yang Star, this is simply a dimension reduction attack. Who told her to carry around a god from Yin Yang Star? It's just a Yin Yang Star. Just leave it to me. These are camp points, Sotignu rubbed his hands excitedly. Gucci asked, do you have any idea? Of course. We are 100% able to deal with the players from Yin Yang Star. Let's just wait here for those people to come, Sotignu said confidently. However, the next second, Sotignu immediately used his mind to communicate with Lucifer. Sotignu, Lulu. Lucifer, heard. Lucifer inside the Death Blade can also know what is happening outside. Sotignu, hey, are you excited? Even if we come out, we can still beat the people of Yin Yang Star this time. That strange sound shouldn't disturb us, right? Lucifer, yeah, but they should also have game props like yours, right? Sotignu, there should be, but you have to be careful about this to avoid overturning. Sotignu would naturally take the situation very seriously, considering this almost overturning situation. Otherwise, it would be Gucci's turn to laugh at her. At this time, in many places in the Wasteland world, players one after another encountered players from different worlds. After they met, some started fighting over disagreements. Some people run away immediately when they see that the situation is not good for them. Some players choose not to interfere with each other. The situation in this world is very complicated, and players currently do not have a deep understanding of this world. If there really is a conflict with other players, not to mention the dangerous factors in this original world, both parties are likely to be benefited by other players. Moreover, the main mission of this round of dungeons is to find traces of life, not players killing each other. As time goes by, more and more players begin to find players in the same world and get together to cuddle up. Once there are more people, all kinds of contradictions and conflicts will inevitably appear. In addition, such a large number of players suddenly poured into the Wasteland world, which also attracted the attention of the indigenous residents of this world. Some players still don't know how to restrain themselves and use various game props in front of the indigenous residents of the Wasteland. As for the indigenous forces in the Wasteland world, facing an unknown group of players, some chose to directly exclude them and kill the players, others chose to stabilize the players, invite them back to the force, and then make plans. Above the wilderness. 20 or 30 players from Yin Yang Star were riding in cars, searching for traces of Gucci in the wilderness. It should be here. The positioning information given by the adults, the last place where it disappeared is here. Well, that's right, it's right here, but be careful, that player should still have a backup plan. While they were searching, a car suddenly appeared in front of them. Somebody is coming. This car has been modified. It should be from the copy world. Seems to be. The Yin Yang Star players were thinking of taking the initiative to avoid the vehicle in front of them. Unexpectedly, the car stopped in front of them. A man stepped out of the car and shouted to the players of Yin Yang Star, "Who are you? Which force do you belong to?" The Yin Yang player who was driving at the front rolled his eyes and suddenly thought of an excuse, "We are from the United Society." The man glanced at them with a look of disbelief in his eyes. "United Society? I have been in United Society for several years and I haven't seen you." "Your Excellency." "United Press, Captain of Patrol Team B10086, Li Wenyu." Upon hearing this identity, the Yin Yang Star players originally wanted to drive away directly but suppressed their thoughts. Opposite are the patrols of the United Society. If there is a conflict, it will be detrimental to the main mission in the future. Li Yuan continued to ask, "Speak quickly. Where are you from? Are you wilderness people?" Yes, we are wilderness people." The players of Yin Yang Star got out of the car one after another, with smiles on their faces, trying their best to show that they had no malicious intent. Li Wenyu asked, "Then why do you say you are from the United Society?" The player from Yin Yang Star explained, "We have also heard of the name for a long time, and we just thought that the name of the United Society is useful, and there is no malicious intention. Next time, don't pretend to be a United Society. I'll let you go this time," Li Yuan warned. The Yin Yang Star players greeted each other with smiles. I understand. Li Wenyu waved his hand, "You go." Just when the players of Yin Yang Star breathed a sigh of relief and were about to get on the bus, suddenly, several black stones were thrown from nowhere and rolling to the bottom of the car. Then, a bang-bang explosion sounded, and the power of the explosion directly overturned those cars. Players from Yin Yang Star who were relatively close were also affected immediately. "What happened? Did you do it?" After a brief period of confusion, the Yin Yang Star players judged that the bomb was thrown from Li Wenyu based on the direction in which it was thrown. "Ha ha ha ha. Oh, you are still so easy to fool," Li Wenyu suddenly burst out laughing. "At this time, there is nothing Yin Yang Star players don't understand. You are not Aboriginal." Li Wenyu raised his eyebrows slightly. "Of course I am not. Are you a player?" "It's too late to know." Li Wenyu didn't want to delay any more, so he waved his hand directly. "Lulu, come out and deal with them." 10 minutes later, Li Wenyu's face suddenly became blurry. The next second, even his body shape changed. At this time, the fat man squatting in the car also walked out. "Boss, this is solved too quickly." Sutingyu looked at the corpses on the ground that did not disappear into white light like the original copies, but were still corpses, and sighed. "It can really kill people. Let's go." Fatty Sutingyu turned around and said. When these Yin Yang Star players approached, Sutingyu and others noticed their traces. Therefore, Sutingyu happily ran out to have a friendly exchange with them. 24. It doesn't match the number Guju said. Sutingyu counted the number of corpses and frowned slightly. "It seems that we haven't caught them all yet. Boss, let's go back first." At the same time, Farah, who was closing his eyes to rest, suddenly changed his expression, quickly opened his eyes and stood up. "No. That guy, she is here. Damn it. Then there must be that god beside her." Chu Xinyu walked over and couldn't help but feel doubtful when she saw Farah's unprecedented impatience. Farah said anxiously, change the plan first. Don't target the blue star player anymore. Complete the original thing first. Chu Xinyu asked, what's wrong? The player who went to Yin Yang Star to cause destruction before, she is also there, Farah explained. Suddenly, Chu Xinyu also understood what it meant. If this is the case, it will be very difficult. If there are gods, it is their turn to avoid their sharp edges. Then the team that originally went to find the person. Chu Xinyu quickly thought of a way to contact the person. However, no one could be contacted. Farah's expression turned ugly, no need to contact me. In just a short moment, he felt the power of God again. Can't be wrong. Those people from the past are gone. Chu Xinyu didn't feel much. Among those people in the past, there were not many confidants of mine. However, Chu Xinyu felt a little regretful, but there was nothing she could do and could only ignore the children for the time being. It's not too late to go back to him to catch up with the past after these things are dealt with first. Only. Farah and Chu Xinyu wanted to stop there, but a certain fairy didn't agree yet. After Sutingyu returned, he waited for a while and found that no one came to see him. So, after discussing it with Guqi, we decided to take the initiative. How difficult it is to find people in the wasteland world. Not to mention people who can't be contacted. But Sutingyu had Lucifer, and he was looking for a player from Yin Yang Star. Lucifer is the god of the Yin Yang Star. He can detect the bloodline of the people on the Yin Yang Star and find them. Therefore, Sutingyu decided to let Shan Yu and Fatty stay and take care of them, while he and Lucifer went to have friendly exchanges. However, before Sutingyu left, Guqi suddenly asked, if you see Chu Xinyu, let her breathe. Sutingyu paused, waiting for Guqi's next words. Guqi added, I'll kill her. Okay. I obey. Sutingyu blinked his big eyes and left the hiding spot with a smile. After Guqi saw Sutingyu leaving, he immediately took out some medicine and gave it to himself. Although the effect is minimal, it is still better than nothing. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 1068. Oh no. That blue star player is targeting us. She has the help of gods, and we can't hide, ahh. Chu Xinyu received a message asking for help from Su Jian from another team. But before Chu Xinyu could reply, the signal on the other end was completely cut off. Chu Xinyu's face darkened. It doesn't matter to Chu Xinyu whether others die or not. But Su Jian was her subordinate who had been with her for a long time, and now she is dead like this. Chu Xinyu immediately went to Farah and reported the matter to the latter. Now how to do? Chu Xinyu hoped that Farah could come up with a solution. There are so many players in Yin Yang Star that even in a short while, it is impossible to kill all the gods on the other side. But if you don't stop it, it will be over sooner or later. Farah's face was gloomy, since she bullied others too much, then I don't need to be polite. Hearing this, Chu Xinyu said nothing. It makes no sense to talk about who provoked whom in the first place. Now that little girl is leading a killing spree outside with the gods. The person you seriously injured will definitely not be traveling with her. He is probably hiding somewhere, Chu Xinyu reminded with a flash of her eyes. Snored. If it hadn't been for that brat, our current plan wouldn't have been ruined. Thinking of Guqi, Farah became angry again. Farah seemed to have made up his mind and turned to look at Chu Xinyu. I remember that when he ran away, he was injured and bleeding. Yes. Take some of his blood. I have a secret method to find him, Farah said. Hearing this, Chu Xinyu's eyes flashed. Farah said sadly, find him, I want you to kill him. Didn't that little girl have fun killing? When she goes back, she will see the body of that little kid again, haha. Boss, it's time to eat. The fat man fiddled with a bunch of kitchen utensils and ingredients and prepared a delicious dinner. Gucci can now sit up on his own, but he can't walk too far yet. The fat man brought the food and placed it on the table he had just taken out. Gucci reached out to grab the rice spoon, but he couldn't hold it firmly for a few seconds and dropped it back into the bowl. Gucci retracted his hand and glanced down at his still weak hand. Seeing this, the fat man took the rice spoon and said, "Boss, let me help you." The fat man scooped up a mouthful of rice and put it to Gucci's mouth. The latter paused, then opened it and ate it. "Boss, is it delicious? The heat should be enough, right? Would you like to order some food?" Shan Yu on the side held the contact phone and clicked on the message just sent by Su Tingyu. "Where is the fat man? Where is the fat man? Call Fatty over." "Almost forgot, leave it to the fat man to do the finishing touches and maximize your profits." Shan Yu turned to look at the fat man. "Fat man, Susu is looking for trouble." "Ah," the fat man was confused, put down the bowl in his hand, and then hurriedly read the message on the contact machine. "Ah, I didn't notice the news from the boss just now." Shan Yu said, "You go there first." "Then boss." The fat man looked at Gucci, and then at the food that the latter had only eaten a few bites of. "I'm here, you go first." Seeing this, Shan Yu got up and walked over. Gucci asked, "What's the matter with that guy?" The fat man scratched his head, "It's nothing. The big boss asked me to do last hits, saying that my last hits had a high explosion rate. The other world players she killed didn't explode anything good, they were all bread and mineral water." When Gucci heard the words, he chuckled softly, "Chuxi, cough cough cough. I'm fine, go find her." The fat man nodded, "Okay, I'll go there first and contact you in time if anything happens." The last words were to Shan Yu. Shan Yu, yeah. After the fat man left, Shan Yu sat in the fat man's original position. "Here, eat." Gucci glanced at Shan Yu, whose expression was as usual. Gucci lowered his eyes and opened his mouth to eat the food in front of him. After eating almost half a bowl of rice, Gucci didn't want to eat any more. Seeing this, Shan Yu put the bowl back on the table. Just as he was about to say something, Gucci suddenly grabbed Shan Yu's arm. A trace of surprise flashed in Shan Yu's eyes. Before she could say anything, she saw Gucci making a silence gesture to her, and then gestured to a hat on the corner of the sofa. "This is the invisible hat left by Su Tingyu." Shan Yu waited for 2 seconds, walked over, took the hat, and put it on his head. The moment the figure disappeared, before Shan Yu could react, a series of footsteps came from outside the basement door. Shan Yu's expression was stern, and from the corner of his eye he caught sight of the kitten that had walked into the door at some point, and he understood in his heart. Somebody is coming. But why didn't Gucci tell him in advance? Did you let people in? As soon as this doubt arose, when Shan Yu saw the person coming, he suddenly understood everything. Yo, it's really here. Chu Xinyu's figure appeared at the door. She looked at the situation in the basement and only saw Gucci sitting on the sofa. Gucci leaned back on the sofa and stared at her with cold eyes. "It's you." Chu Xinyu walked into the basement and shrugged helplessly. "Kid, I didn't want to find you so quickly, but your friend pushed us too hard. There's nothing we can do about it. I can only come to you." Gucci said in a cold voice, "It seems that you are too anxious to jump over the wall." The smile on Chu Xinyu's face suddenly faded. "Let me ask you again, do you really not know where your father is? I still miss him. If you reveal his whereabouts, maybe I'll let you go this time. How about that?" Gucci replied directly, "Wishful thinking." "Kid, you are really naughty." Hearing this, Chu Xinyu was not angry and sighed slightly. Chu Xinyu walked up to Gucci. When Shan Yu, who was invisible, wanted to take action, he seemed to be noticed in advance by Gucci, who stopped him with a hidden look. Since Gucci was injured, Chu Xinyu sat in front of Gucci and said with a smile, No matter how much you don't want to admit it, I am your mother. What? Are you still thinking that you are the child of your father's wife who is married to a matchmaker? This wish is really beautiful, so beautiful that it is unrealistic, Chu Xinyu said with a bit of schadenfreude. And it also means something else. You are the illegitimate child born to me who cannot see the light of day and is destined to be rejected by your father. Listening to these words, Shan Yu felt angry unconsciously. This old woman really deserves a beating. What about taking care of him? Shan Yu looked at Gu Qi worriedly. At this time, the latter's expression was almost cold. There was only killing intent and hatred in his eyes as he looked at Chu Xinyu. Chu Xinyu turned a blind eye to this look and treated Gu Qi in front of her like a child who was not very sensible and obedient. No threat. Let her squeeze it round and poke it flat.